Secrets of Steam Rome. What If? Part 2. Rome, year 100 AD. Its vast power reaches across 4 continents. Europe was first conquered and Latinized, followed by North Africa, Middle East, Central Asia, Northern India, all the way to Myanmar, parts of the Caribbean islands, and eventually the eastern coastlines of North and South America. Having gone through a fast industrial revolution during the 10 to 20 years of the 1st century AD, Rome had become a global superpower. Eventually coal and oil, like in our timeline, would become used as a new energy source, and the Industrial Revolution evolved into a second industrial revolution, where both military and civilian sectors of the Roman imperial society would evolve into a long golden era where not a single interior or exterior enemy of Rome would be able to destroy it. The glory that was paved by the now dead and first emperor in this timeline, which I call the SRT, Steam Rome Timeline, Gaius Julius Caesar, is still being felt and celebrated yearly across the empire. Having evolved from steam and into coal and oil, electricity would also in the following years become discovered, as Caesar had created an institution specifically for the advancement of technological achievements for Rome in order to gain more lands and hold the empire together forever if possible. The current emperor in the SR timeline is just as in ours, Trajan. The Latin language is still the world's leading international language, even all the way into the East Asian empires and kingdoms. The Americas in the SR timeline is known as the lands of New Rome. New Olympia, a colonial settlement that was the first colony in the New Roman world at the edge of what we know today as the state of Florida, would become in time a large city. Trade and possible conflicts will happen in the SR timeline with the natives in each particular area as in our timeline. However, seeing the Romans' advanced technologies such as its air force, the natives would most likely in many areas see them as gods and grant them as much gold as possible. But this is just a theory, as the alternative scenarios for each historical timeline in the multiverse are just that, theories. In time, more and more Roman imperial colonial settlements will be established across the new Roman world. 2 new colonized continents are called in this timeline the Olympus North and the Central and South lands. Over the decades, as Roman settlers would expand westward across the Caribbean, North, Central and Southern Olympus, more energy sources such as coal and oil would be discovered, and in the process, new things such as plastic along with, as stated earlier, electricity would be discovered and implemented as fast as possible, at first into its military and then into the civilian sector. By the year 200 SR, aka 200 AD, there will be a new emperor. His name, just in our timeline, will be known as Septimius Severus. By this time, electricity connects the entire empire, along with communication through a form of telephone, would be a common household item. As the industrial might of coal, oil and other energy sources will become larger and larger as the empire expanded over time, there would be areas, just like in our timeline, during the Industrial Revolution, a heavily polluted one. This would lower the average lifespan in the major industrial areas and cities such as Rome to about half the standard age of its time. In time, it would become evident that that kind of way of life is not the way of the future, and seeing the possibilities of the new source of energy, electricity, as a much more cleaner and efficient way, the Roman Empire would eventually enact upon a cleaner way of life, and as always to improve as much as possible the life of the average citizen. In time, new power plants would become built across its vast empire, and eventually in this case, let's theorize that a form of free energy would become used, and seen as the standard. Over time, the television and the computerized system would also become available, at first hidden as a top-secret military project and gradually over time given over to the masses. At first, the television and the computerized early systems would be installed at the still heavily followed gladiatorial events. It would also be installed in each town and city square as a form of propaganda purpose to instill control over the masses. Because of its success in all possible ways, the two largest religions in our timeline would never see themselves rise up and change the world as we know it. Instead, the old ancient gods would still be worshipped. With an eventual improvement of living standards and a cleaner air as it went from a heavily polluted one to a clean one, the average lifespan would see itself increase. With all this in place, there could be as many as 500 to 700 million people living inside the empire. Further, 200 to 300 million outside in other nations. With a clear dominating way on all fronts, Rome's ambitions would see itself looking towards the sky and beyond, mainly towards the neighboring planets. Thank you everyone for listening in to this series. Part 3 will come soon. Thank you very much and enjoy your day and have a nice weekend.